The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Marketing with Purpose. This is a segment of the Bliss Business Podcast where we really seek to explore what it really takes for marketing leaders to create impact that goes beyond the numbers. I'm Mike Liskey, your host. And in each of these episodes, we sit down with marketing experts to explore their leadership approach and the strategies that really help them drive performance, but that more importantly, really start to resonate with their audience. Now, together with them, we'll dive into what's working, what's not, and how purpose and empathy can transform the way brands connect. So let's jump into it. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by James Doyle. He's the Chief Marketing Officer at PIRTEK. Now, James brings with him deep experience in marketing and franchise leadership. Now, with a strong focus on building systems that drive demand and support scalability growth across franchise networks. Now, since joining PIRTEK in 2024, he's led the development and the execution of the brand's marketing strategy, while really refining the tools and the resources that empower franchise owners to effectively market within their local territories, which we know is critical to the success of franchisees. Now, having also served as the Vice President of Marketing at Threshold Brands, overseeing marketing for a platform of 11 different consumer brands, and as an active franchisee himself, James offers a unique on-the-ground perspective on how to align marketing with real business outcomes. And today, what we're going to explore is aligning marketing with business growth. So I'm so excited to dive in. James, welcome to our show. Thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was a great intro. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about all things marketing. It's my passion.
For sure, and ours, despite the little technical difficulties that we all had before the show, but we won't tell our audience about that.
we handle those challenges every day, so it's just one of the challenges.
This is true. Yeah, it's probably par for the course. So, well, James, before we dive into all things marketing, I'd love to maybe just talk a little bit about why is aligning marketing with business growth such an important topic, the one that you chose, really for us to discuss today, and what makes it so important right now.
Yeah, I think as marketers, that's what it's all about, right? It is making sure that what we're doing on a daily basis is it actually impacting the bottom line for the business and helping the business to grow.
Yeah.
At PIRTEK, what that means for me is helping our franchisees to market their business and capture market share locally. Through that work, we'll increase our footprint as a franchisor and become a larger system. But I'm really, talking about passion, I'm really passionate about helping our franchisees who are they're all small business owners and helping them to achieve their local vision. And because they all have their unique growth goals and helping them achieve those goals through marketing tactics and marketing strategy.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so glad to hear you say that, right? Because it is true. Marketers for many years have been accused of almost being sort of tone deaf when it comes to the goals of the business. And like you said, many of franchisees are putting life savings to work so that they can provide for their companies. So important for the marketing to really be there to support them. Now, kind of transitioning to strategy and business growth. Sometimes CMOs are pulled between kind of the near-term campaign results, right? Like we've got to show ROI, and then also the needs of a brand to grow in the minds of consumers or other B2B consumers over time. And so I'm sort of curious, how do you ensure that the marketing strategy is aligning, with the growth goals, over a monthly, over a quarterly basis, while still finding the ability to align with what the brand needs to achieve with its greater purpose and promise, and I guess even to a sense of, where do you find the biggest friction points in trying to achieve both of those, two goals?
Yeah, that is a good question, because it can certainly be a balance, and you need to be doing both. You can't ignore one for the detriment of the other. But I do think that being in the franchising space, it is a unique relationship where the franchisor is largely responsible for a lot of the the kind of the tried and true branding efforts. We're creating the marketing campaigns, we're creating the creative, the messaging. If we have sponsorships, we're gathering the sponsorships. So we're making a lot of those branding decisions. Where locally with the franchisee, they're executing the more short-term tactics to bring in business tomorrow. They have vans and they have staff that they have to have a full schedule for tomorrow. They need to execute that marketing locally. Now we are responsible for making sure that we have the systems and the marketing playbook for them to go out and follow, but at a local level, they're the ones pulling the direct levers.
Yeah.
So I think it's a nice balance in that way. I do want to acknowledge, though, that the franchisees do have a big impact on creating a brand. It's really their local brand, right? And as much marketing and branding as we could put together, if the experience isn't good locally, that all falls apart. Right. So the best branding you can do is deliver great service, reliable service, and be the go-to person in your community. You can't really market better than that. Right. So that's really where the rubber meets the road. If they're delivering, that excellent service that we're built around, we have some good marketing awareness campaigns that people find us. That kind of keeps the engine humming.
Yeah. So glad to hear you say that. In a sense, right, it's sort of like a top-down and a bottom-up approach, but at the end of the day, the delivery of the experience is really going to define the brand locally.
Yeah.
And I think I heard you say before the show, PIRTEK's in the US, right, upwards of 200 locations today.
Yep. PIRTEK USA is knocking on the door of 200. We're likely to hit that this month, so really exciting. But PIRTEK itself it's a global company, but we're really focused on developing the U.S. market and potentially Canada and Mexico down the road. So but yeah, we've seen a lot of growth in the last few years, and it's great seeing new owners joining the system, but also current owners expand their own footprint and open up in multiple markets.
Right. And I'd say, to be able to achieve the two goals that you've set, right, the brand goal and the local business growth goals, I mean, obviously you have a successful playbook to be able to hit, that many locations. So, interested to, being able to hear more about what makes your playbook so successful. Now, maybe transitioning, James, over to the topic of, leading with purpose under pressure at Zero Company. We very much love to align our marketing campaigns with an organization's purpose. Now, in the high stakes, there are high stakes situations that come up for brands. Sometimes it could be a brand crisis. At other times, it's a market turn down or something like a pandemic, with COVID. And so, very curious, on how do you maintain a sense of that purpose and that empathy while being in that kind of environment and having to make either quick decisions or make some strategic decisions?
Yeah. Well, so I've been in franchising for almost my entire career. So I'm going to talk a lot about franchising and
that's great.
My love for that, right? But I think that is one of the areas where franchising can really shine, because when those things happen, market turns, COVID, as a small business owner, having the ability to turn around and talk to 100 other people that are in your same shoes, dealing with the same problems, it's invaluable. And as a franchisor, when those things happen, we really need to foster as much communication within the community as possible, so that people are sharing their ideas, sharing resources, sharing, hey, it's going to be okay. Some encouragement too, because people are scared with the ups and downs.
Right.
I definitely saw that during COVID. Community was coming together every single day, having calls and just supporting each other. I think in particular, when a new business launches, having legacy people that have been in the brand and legacy owners that have seen it, they've been through those peaks and valleys, and just to hearing like, yeah, this is kind of like when this happened 8 years ago, and this is what we did then, and it all worked out. Hearing that can really help, okay, we got this, let's continue to charge forward. So that's one of the beauties of franchising, is be able to rely on that community during those peaks of panic, because sometimes you don't know what to do. When COVID rolls around, you don't know what to do. Right. But having 100 minds saying, hey, how are we going to do this?
Right.
That's a lot better than just yours.
That's so true. And that could be, when it comes to a leadership transition, or, a brand being acquired, maybe even a competitor, coming into a certain space. So that is, a great way, right, to be able to rely on that community that you've built. And as an agency too, that specializes in this franchise world, we totally agree with you, right? Because having that communication and be able to rely on what has worked before, how do we handle this together as a community, definitely helps to smooth the ups and downs during a volatile time like that. Now, maybe again, even speaking, into the franchise system or the franchise industry, James, when perhaps you're bringing in, a new service, or you're launching, a new market, it can be sometimes difficult to align, sales, which I guess in some cases this might be the franchisee or the franchisee, the local owner, and then maybe even the brand. So kind of curious, like where does alignment sometimes tend to break down between the local needs and the the overarching needs when, say, entering a new market or launching perhaps a new location?
Yeah, so talking about more launching like new products or new initiatives.
Yeah.
I think communication is generally where it kind of like can fall apart, right? And I think that we can get into the trap as corporate, or this would apply to a franchisor or really any kind of corporate company that is trying to put out a message, is generally when you're working on a project, you've probably worked on that project for months, right? You've probably been in 36 meetings about this rollout. You've really, soup to nuts have thought about this thing. And then you get your rollout package together and it looks great. All the information's there. You send out that email and, hey, we just launched that boat. But for the person receiving it, whether it's a franchisee, a sales organization, whatever that might be, that's maybe their first time ever hearing about it or seeing it, right? So just knowing the way that just people receive information, you need to continue to communicate it, and communicate in different ways. You're sending out that information, you're having webinars to reinforce it. On the franchising end, having our field teams really be an expert in that, so that as they're going out and visiting locations, they're talking about the new releases and the things that are new that we want them to know about. And by the time we're sick of talking about it, it's really kind of just landing. So just remembering that and continuing the communication process, it's always something that we need to kind of go back to and say, hey, have we communicated this enough? Should we communicate it again? Usually the answer is yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, ad nauseum. And this rings so true that you're saying this. I was taught a long time ago this concept of the J curve of change. Mm-hmm. And some individuals have a very deep J curve where, even though they may get to the other side of that peak, it may take them a lot longer, and they may go through a number of deeper emotions, and others maybe have like just a very shallow J
J curve, and they get there very quickly. So like you said, it rings very true that, hey, we're already comfortable with this. We've talked about it for a long period of time, but being able to, I think, demonstrate the empathy that's needed for somebody who's hearing it for the first time, and kind of helping them, navigate through that J curve of change. I know it was a concept that stuck with me for a long, long time. Yeah.
And coming from, on the marketing end, where I think the marketing departments generally have a lot of rollout of new things, right? We have a lot of campaigns and initiatives. So what's important for us to realize too is that, we are one ball in the air that, the owner or the local manager is juggling, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking about this new initiative, but you know what? They also need to process payroll. They need to order inventory, and they need to do this thing and that thing. So that just goes to the importance of over communication, because we're one of a few balls that they're juggling. We got to make sure that we're giving enough reminders and times to break through some of the other noise that's happening.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that I think again is a great show of empathy, right? To really be able to consider what your franchisees or your local business owners are going through.
Yeah.
Now, James, I was kind of hoping to talk a little bit more about insights in terms of driving strategy when customer insights perhaps can help. You mentioned the importance of delivering a good service locally. So can you share maybe a time when some piece of customer feedback, or maybe even feedback from one of the local markets or any sort of behavioral data maybe shifted the direction of an initiative or a campaign? What did it teach you, even between balancing intuition that may have been driving a campaign when you got that analysis back?
I'll give you kind of a simple one. So we're PIRTEK is a service business, and much of my franchising career, I've worked in service related industries, and we service industries, we live and breathe off of reviews and mostly Google reviews, right?
Yeah.
So, sometimes sitting in the marketing seat, you can really get lost in creating a really slick system where you have automated drips where you're dripping in different frequencies to say, hey, please provide us a review, share your feedback, beautiful looking templates, and really kind of nurturing that along, right?
Yeah.
But what I found to be the most effective in terms of review generation, what strategy that I found was it was a simple little sticker that would go on an invoice to say, we're a small business. Please share your feedback with the world. It would help us out. With a little QR code.
Yeah.
That drove so much higher volume than a lot of the automated systems do. Now, I'm not saying get away from the automated system, but making sure that you have different different ways that you're reaching out to that person, because they're both critical. Have the slick systems, but also have the really simple, direct to the person, because people work with people, not necessarily companies,
Right.
So if you're able to kind of give a very personal message to that customer, sometimes that goes a lot further than a great looking email.
Yep. Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. There was a franchise that we worked with, and one of the really smart things was the creation of, because the service provider, there were different teams that would provide the service into different local areas. And that individual would carry cards with a QR code, but specifically with their name and their QR code. And they'd say, hey, I would really appreciate if you left Michael a review, or if you left James a review, because they had that personal connection with that individual, and having that personal touch as well drove a lot more, positive reviews, but like you said as well, a lot more reviews because they felt like they were doing it to help, this individual that had helped them. So yeah, I mean, those tactics to get customer feedback certainly work. In many cases, a lot better than like you said, the technical and more automated and faceless, systems that we might we might have today.
Right. You want them both.
Yeah.
You don't want to rely on one or the other. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So, and I guess I'm curious as well, when we think about turning market, into a revenue driver. We talked about the theme of this show, aligning marketing with business growth. So tell us, what's worked best for turning marketing into that revenue driver at PIRTEK, or maybe even in your experience prior to joining PIRTEK. And then I'm really kind of curious where you may even see gaps in systems like the CRM or like tracking conversions, and then even getting alignment, with the sales organization. How have you done that? What's worked best really for marketing, to become that revenue driver?
Yeah. So with PIRTEK, we are like our bread and butter is just to be as findable as possible online.
Okay.
We're largely an emergency driven business. Yep. So, a piece of equipment goes down in the field, we can get out to that person within, we're open 24/7, 365, 1 hour ETA. So we are like, we've got to be there. Right.
Yeah.
So when somebody needs us, they're hopping online and they're trying to get somebody that will actually come out to them. Right. Yeah. So how we grow is being as findable as possible. So that really means digital marketing for us and making sure that we are as covered in the markets that we service as possible.
Yep.
And we've really ramped up our digital marketing, I'd say, performance and just the level of success we've had with it over the last few years. Tracking the spend back to actual customer revenue, that's always an evolving target, and we're getting better and better at that. Using things like AI call scoring, so we're not just looking at, okay, this spend drove this many phone calls, but were those calls of quality? Did they actually result in jobs? And have the AI automatically score that for us to provide those insights so that we can say, hey, let's put more money here, take money away from there, and just spend in a smarter way. So that's really kind of been our success point. I think where we're going and where we can improve, like I said, I think it's always that kind of continuous target is to make sure that we're tracking as closely as possible the efficiency of our marketing dollars. So I think we've taken huge leaps and bounds, but that's always like on the forefront of every marketer's mind, right? Is like, show me the money, right? What you're doing working, and to the degree that we can show that and paint as clear of a picture of that as possible, that only means that more marketing dollars are going to be able to be spent because we're able to tell that story, and that just means more growth for the business.
Yeah. It's funny because I was going to say, one of the things I should mention is that, PIRTEK, though it sounds like you are one of our clients, because this is like literally how we help franchise systems grow. PIRTEK's not one of our customers, but I feel like with our, franchisors and franchisees, this conversation comes up almost like on a monthly basis, right? Now with AI, you have the opportunity where, before you needed to listen to a recording or read a transcript of, hey, was this a quality lead? Now AI can evaluate those things for you and even feed that into your CRM and, make sure that if you're running an ad campaign, then the machine behind that ad campaign is getting this information of, hey, this was a good quality lead versus this one, or this call, was a good one versus that one. So having these systems, being able to constantly be at the forefront of incorporating new technologies now like AI, super critical. And I think even, earlier to your point of being able to understand or review reviews and respond to reviews, have systems that can collect all of those for you in one place and rate it if it's a good review or a bad review, and even how you may want to respond. This is so critical, right, to what you're saying, James, to be able that marketing can demonstrate how we are impacting the bottom line.
Yeah, and I think with AI, obviously there's a lot of talk about AI and AI's impact on business and and marketing definitely being a primary area of that.
Sure.
But there definitely are some real world things to take advantage of now with that, and as you mentioned, like call scoring, and be able to see at volume, where are you having the most success? Who are the rock stars out there that we want to, teach those processes throughout the system? That's critical information that you really wouldn't be able to get before without some really intensive resource commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point as well of in the emergency service area, if they haven't heard from you within 10 minutes, sometimes they're going to go on to the next option. So now even having the ability to incorporate, say, like an AI receptionist or some sort of chat bot on the site so that you can interact with these individuals if you are, as a business owner, tied up with something else or you can't respond as quickly. At least that option is there for you so that you don't miss out on that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now a topic that I love, James, and we at Zero Company feel this is one of the most vital components of a successful brand, and that's the thought of purpose, and as well how empathy is impacted by having a strong purpose and the impact that even empathy has. So how would you say that purpose and empathy shape the way that you approach the marketing that you do today? Is there a story perhaps, or a special approach that you have in order to have purpose and empathy sort of shape the marketing that you do?
Yeah. So, again, going back to franchising, I feel really lucky to be in the position that I'm in, being able to work with many small business owners. Everyone into business ownership with their own vision of what their dream is, right? And that's going to be, mine would be different from yours, and would be different from our neighbors, right? But working on the franchisor side, we really do get to have direct impact on helping them to achieve that. Whether it is working on a paid search campaign and refining that performance, and they're able to get a few more phone calls out of that spend that month, that's going to result in a few more jobs and more money into their pocket. If it's thinking about a new campaign or database mining past customers, there's a lot of examples of things that we can do on the franchisor side to help really change what the results of their business. And that is, I think, kind of a unique thing that we can see our end customer and the impact that it has to our end customer. And that's what's kept me excited and engaged in the franchising space for so long. And that's why I talk to my team about it, like, hey, this is where my passion is. This is why I get up and go to work every day, because we get to have this impact, and it makes it, when you do win and you do have successes, it makes it great.
Yeah.
When you don't, it hurts, right? Because you want to see everyone succeed. And that's how it should be, right? You should be fully staked in the game. And I think that's what we get to have here, which is great.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing, right? You're doing good through the company that you're leading, and you can feel it with those local customers. It's definitely a very positive emotion and very, very energizing. So James, before we do sign off, I just wanted to ask for others that might be following us on this show, or entrepreneurs that may listen to the recording later on. Where would you like them to maybe learn a little bit more about PIRTEK? Where can they go to maybe even follow up with you?
Yeah. If you want to check out PIRTEK, best way to do is PIRTEKUSA.com. Okay. You can see all about who we are as a company. You can also have links to our franchising opportunity too, to learn about that. And then if you ever wanted to reach out to me, I'm J Doyle at PIRTEKUSA.com. Be happy to chat.
Awesome. Well, James, thank you so much, really, for joining us on this segment of the Bliss Business Podcast, the Marketing with Purpose series. And for our audience, we hope today's conversation has really sparked some new ideas for how to align strategy, execution, and purpose in the work that you do, so that you can have that positive impact that James spoke of. And if you found this valuable and enjoyed the discussion, please like, subscribe, and even share it, perhaps with someone to keep the conversation going and really help us to make a bigger impact out in the world today. And remember, as we love to say at Zero Company, right? Great marketing doesn't just sell, it really serves. So we look forward to seeing you next time on the Marketing with Purpose series of the Bliss Business Podcast. Thanks so much.